Hi there, and welcome to Ask the Chiropractor, your source for health and chiropractic. My name is Dr. Adam Rodnick out of Commerce, Michigan, and we're here with our guest again. This is Dr. Andy Roberts out of West Bloomfield.
Thank you, and absolutely a pleasure. Last time I was on, we had a really great conversation. I enjoyed the chiropractic talk with you. I enjoyed speaking about life, and we covered a lot of issues.
Glad to have you back.
Thank you.
So if you could tell us a little bit about how you got into the profession.
That was an epiphany. I was an engineer, happened to be at a chiropractic seminar to meet a friend who was a chiropractor for lunch, heard the chiropractic message, which was so grand, so big, so huge, the vision. And 3 months later, I was at Chiropractic College in Davenport, Iowa, the fountainhead of chiropractic, where chiropractic was founded, and never turned back since.
Just like that. And you know, we see that most people that go into chiropractic either had an amazing testimonial themselves, or it just vibed with them so much that they were inspired to become a chiropractor. You don't see too many people just, you know, that heard it was a good profession or heard they make some good money and decided to get into it.
For sure. I mean, for sure at the very beginning, there were only cases of those that were saved by or a loved one was saved by or through chiropractic. As time went on and the efficacy of chiropractic, the usefulness of chiropractic, the amazing potential that chiropractic has was noticed, there were other people that got into it for different reasons. But I would say the majority of chiropractors out there got into it either they personally were helped through it, or family or friends were helped through it, or just the vision of chiropractic, that altruistic sense that, wow, we're part of a bigger picture, and what better way to serve God than by serving man, and what better way to serve man than to bring them to their full potential.
So through your years of practice, what have you noticed in general in this country? Have you noticed a change in the perception of the country as far as the model of how health works, how healthcare is?
Well, it's a little difficult to say. I mean, I've been out of the country for a while and just recently back in. And I would probably say my experience in Costa Rica, 7 years there, was probably, 30 to 40 years back of an equivalent of the United States. So they're kind of behind the scenes in thought process and concept. Although, that being said, I don't like where health is in our country today. So I don't know, maybe we could change those that are still not up to our point yet. And basically, our health model has failed. Not chiropractic health model, but the paradigm that we live in, which is the pharmaceutical/medical paradigm, has failed in most chronic settings. In an emergency setting, absolutely there's no one better. Take me to a medical doctor, take me to an ER doc, and have them repair any emergency need that I have. But on a chronic setting, and that pretty much is 99.9% of the diseases that are being treated out there is a chronic setting, the medical model and the pharmaceutical, the drug therapy model has failed.
Yeah, technologically, exactly. As far as ER goes, emergency care, right now our technology is excellent, and you have the best chance of getting your life saved if you're in an emergency situation.
Absolutely.
But for most other things, over 90-something% of everything else, we are, I would say, no question about it, an overdrugged country right now. The average American right now is on 6 prescription medications.
It's a horrible thing. It's a never-ending thing. It's not one of those things where it's like, okay, Mrs. Smith, you have X disease, so take Y drug for 5 weeks, or even take it for 5 months, and then you'll be off it and you'll be fine. That's not the case. You'll say is, okay, Ms. Smith, you need to be on this drug for the rest of your life. So then what we'll find is 6 months to a year down the line, that medication has now caused another complication, which they call side effects, which I personally, in my opinion, call a direct effect. I don't even understand how it could be a side effect if it actually caused it. To me, it's a direct effect. So that one drug then leads to maybe 1 or 2 more. And this starts usually around 40s, 50s is the average we see. And by the time someone's in their late 60s, early 70s, now you're talking about they have a literal shoebox filled with drugs that they're taking. Who knows the interactions between them? And one is just leading to another. Does it improve their quality of life? For sure not. Does it extend their life? I don't know. I think that's up for debate as well.
And we call this like the medical merry-go-round, where one leads to another, leads to another, leads to a surgery, leads to take these ones for the rest of your life.
Well, that's why
It's just that
chasing
round and round.
symptoms doesn't work. Chasing that, and that's the classic detective work of, you know, you're an internist. You're chasing symptoms, and that's a classic philosophy of a person as well. It's what we've been ingrained with through our lives on TV and in magazines and radio, is to chase a symptom. If you have stuffy nose, clear the nose. Okay, now if you have acid reflux, clear up the acid. And you're just chasing symptoms. Before too long, you find out that there is no end to it, because one leads into another. You're only chasing a symptom. You've never really gotten down to the root cause. That's why in chiropractic, or true chiropractic, doesn't really enter into the realms of symptom. For sure we feel sympathy that someone is going through what they're going through, and for sure they're real in what they're experiencing. However, to enter into the symptom game or the symptom chasing game is doomed to failure, like it is doomed to fail for healthcare in our society.
And I've noticed that in the last decade, the perception in this country is changing, because it is starting to get out there in the media that our allopathic model of an outside-in model is failing, and more people, and we're going through this paradigm shift right now, where more people are moving toward an inside-out model, where health comes from inside our body, and we do everything we can to control take care of the problem, work on inside our body, which then affects the outside of our body, rather than this outside-in mentality where if something's wrong, take something from outside the body. Take a pill, a potion, a lotion, a salve, a cream, whatever it is, to change the inside of our body.
Well, I mean, for sure. It's amazing that you can go through life. You see the miracles daily. And I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about the average person. You see the miracles daily. You put food... We talked about this a little on our last show about people just going through life on automatic and not really consciously thinking. You know, when you stop and think that you put food into your mouth, you know, your listening audience by now has probably had breakfast or lunch. Well, that's not a one-way tube. It's not in and out, a hamburger in, hamburger out. On the way, a whole host of processes are taking place, perfectly orchestrated through the nervous system. But more importantly, the body is taking out the things that it requires for life. Meaning, new eye cells are being derived by the hamburger that you ate. New muscle cells, new kidney cells, new liver cells by the eggs you ate. The glass of milk that you drank is being converted into the backbone for hormones that need to be produced for the chemical processes of life. So you go through that, you know it in the back of your head, but because you're not consciously living, you don't think about it, that's a complete miracle. That's an unbelievable miracle that's happening on. And then all of a sudden when we get sick, this miracle thing that could take a steak, a potato, and a glass of Coca-Cola if you drink that, and make it into living, breathing tissue, now can't do it. Now it needs the help of a pill to heal itself. Makes no sense
There's
whatsoever.
not a scientist in the world that could take a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and turn that into living, breathing human tissue. It's just the only thing that can do that is the power that's in our body.
Right. And then, you know, there's the classic axiom that chiropractors use: the power that made the body heals the body. And that's the only way, and it really true is. The power that made the body. So you're talking about two cells that came together, this beautiful creation. For those of you that are parents, have seen it with your own eyes, this beautiful, living, breathing, crying, smiling bundle of joy was created in these 9 months, give or take, and perfect, without a thought on your behalf. Then all of a sudden they get a cold. Now that miracle, that organizing intelligence that created that, now is dumb and stupid and can't cure a sniffle or a cold. It's incongruous. It doesn't match. Our thinking doesn't match with what we know to be true.
It reminds me of a story that, I forget what century this was, where they built this French ship. They built this giant ship. It was supposed to be this amazing creation. It could carry so many people and so many thousands of pounds. It was a miraculous ship. And when it took off, they loaded that thing so full of jewels and diamonds and gold. It was just so full that as soon as it took off, it sank in the harbor. And I feel that we're doing the same thing with the children in our country right now, where these kids are born perfect, this miraculous power that turned them from 2 cells into a living, breathing human being, and then right away we're pumping them full of vaccinations. We're putting antibiotics in them, and we're just pumping them full of, putting these diamonds and gold in there so much that, you know, we're sinking in the harbor.
That's certainly, I mean, that's a whole nother episode of your show,
Right.
if not 10 episodes. You know, you talk about the vaccine rate compared to just not many years ago, where it was something to the neighborhood of 10 vaccines that an infant was given, to now somewhere in the neighborhood of 25. And the autism rate has changed in that same amount of time from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 150. That's huge, that's monstrous, and that's something that needs to be addressed. Now, is it directly related to the vaccines? I don't know, but there's certainly more than enough evidence just in that to put caution to the wind that the parent really should research these things.
That's a whole other story. We can spend hours on just that. But something that came out in the media just recently, they found that all these pharmaceuticals, the massive amounts of pharmaceuticals that we're taking in this country, which is somewhere around 70 to 80% of the total pharmaceuticals in the world, are now coming back and they're in our water supply. So I have a clip here, and if we could roll that, check this out. This is pretty crazy what's happening.
Well, do you know what's in your drinking water? A shocking Associated Press investigation found various pharmaceuticals in the drinking supplies of at least 41 million Americans. Tainted water was found from New Jersey to California. NBC's Tom Costello is following the story from Washington. Tom, I've been dying to ask somebody some questions about this story. First of all, what kinds of drugs are we talking about, and how dangerous is this?
Pretty wide range. Here's the drinking water in Washington, D.C. They found 6 pharmaceuticals in our drinking water here. They include ibuprofen, caffeine, monosin, and about 3 or 4 others. In Philadelphia, they had 56 pharmaceuticals or byproducts. They range everything from epilepsy medication to mental health medicines to pharmaceuticals that really run the gamut. Here's the bottom line from the Associated Press on the study they did. It was, as you mentioned, a 5-month investigation involving the AP investigative team. 50 major cities in 50 states were looked at, and drugs were found in the water of 24 major cities. We're talking 41 million Americans here who drink that water. So what's in the water? Everything from acetaminophen and ibuprofen to mood stabilizers, antibiotics, angina, heart, as well as cholesterol drugs, and even sex hormones. The trouble here, Meek, is that the federal government does not test specifically for pharmaceuticals in the water. And in fact, there is no way to scrub water that is in a treatment plant for pharmaceuticals. And so now we have a situation where states and cities across the country are just starting to realize that there are the remnants of pharmaceuticals in the drinking water. All of that said, we should emphasize, we're talking here about parts per billion or trillion, really minute traces of pharmaceuticals that are in the water. And you say, well, how did it get there? Well, without getting too graphic, all of us who take medication for one thing or another, we don't absorb all of it. It is excreted. It gets into the sewage system, into the water treatment plants. And then, because water treatment plants can't scrub it all out, if any of it, it just kind of dilutes on into the water system. Sometimes it gets into the water table, into wildlife, and then into reservoirs. It goes back into the water treatment site, into the water treatment plants.
I wonder if there's going to be, long-term study about effects of this down the road. And, but I guess initially, Tom, the question I'm sure you're asking today is there anything the government can do about this?
Yeah, and the EPA says it's concerned about it, but we don't yet know, and water treatment utility plants say they are convinced that there is no immediate threat to anybody out there. That said, I did a story about 4 years ago in which we found a river in Colorado, and now we know there are many rivers, in which the fish were turning from male to female. And the reason was because there was too much estrogen in the water. The natural female hormone was literally turning male fish into female fish, and the thinking was that this is a canary in a coal mine. So now the question is, what's the impact on humans?
What do you think of that?
It's funny, in my office I have a clip from one of the Detroit area newspapers not too long ago that the title is Sex or Gender of Fishes Are Being Changed. And as you read in the body, what? What's going on? Well, from the years of women on birth control pills, which are, synthetic hormones, and that going out through the urine, but also them dumping their pills into the toilets, as well as refuse from a number of the factories that use estrogen in some of their packaging and things like that, have introduced so many what's called foreign estrogens into our environment that it's actually changing the gender of fish from male to female. It's no different with us. It's no different with us. Milk, that's a huge concern. You always see BST, which is a growth hormone that affects the production of milk. It gives them basically 1 gallon more milk production than if they weren't on this. Again, another hormone mimicker, and that, when you drink it, then has the effect on the body. So you have feminization of men going on today in our society. Breasts growing larger, male genitalia shrinking, aggressiveness changing and softening. All of the things that make a male are beginning to change because of these chemicals that are in the system in our oral supply.
And those are just a couple of things. There's also
they mentioned so many more.
Antidepressants, anticonvulsants, antibiotics. These are all being found in our water supply right now, and they're noticing that it's changing the bottom of the food chain.
Right.
They're seeing that the plankton, some of the microorganisms right now are dying off, are changing. They're also changing their...
Of course. And it goes all the way up the food chain. I mean, a pregnant woman shouldn't even eat tuna anymore. I mean, tuna, which was a staple fish for so many, a pregnant woman, most people shouldn't eat. At best, a healthy person, maybe once a week tuna. Why? Because of the mercury in it. Not because the tuna are eating mercury, but because the smaller fish are eating mercury. And the tuna, which is the biggest fish, eat the smaller fish, and the mercury builds up. I mean, it's a horrible thing. Our environment is changing, and that's our own stewardship of the planet. But that's also what's out there. If these things weren't out there, then I guess they wouldn't be in our environment either.
We have a saying in chiropractic that says, "Nature needs no help, just no interference," or "God needs no help, just no interference." And it's in our body that is true, and at the same time, with even our planet that is true. Where this power that's in our body has the ability to heal, has the ability to turn our food, like we were talking about, into living tissue, where it doesn't need any help. It just needs no interference.
We were designed perfectly. In fact, the developer of chiropractic also said along those lines that this area of the neck is the great disconnect between God and his man, meaning that God designed in you that control factor. And that control factor comes from the brain. That's the seat of control. That's what tells your liver to produce this chemical, tells your stomach to digest this food, tells our vocal cords to speak so that we can communicate with your audience. And then the conduit then is the very top down through the spinal cord. And because this was God created and the system was God created, that is a great disconnect, like a power breaker, a circuit breaker in your circuit breaker box at home. So, I mean, it's completely incredible the power that the body has to be healthy, to function healthy equally when things go awry, how bad they can get. And literally can take one simple change in the nervous system, one tiny adjustment, which would be a huge thing to that one person.
So, like we're saying, we don't need to help the body. We just need to remove the interference, get out of the way. We move the bone, get out of the way, and let the body do the healing.
I tell people a lot that no credit for me. I'm a glorified electrician. I know which switch to turn on, and then I get out of the way and watch, and kind of revel as well to watch this principle of God function in the body. It doesn't need any help. It just needs no interference, as you said. Get that open, the channel open, and allow it to heal.
And the principle is the same, like it was said in the planet, where they say save the rainforest, save the ozone layer. Do we need to save those things, or do we need to just stop destroying them and stop interfering with nature's intention there?
Well, certainly. I mean, and that's clear. And the funny thing is, I think chiropractic is almost too simple. Because people want complicated. They think if it's complicated, it's more effective. If it's complicated, or even more money, it has to be good. If it's simple, it can't be. It can't be the simple solution. It can't be and really, chiropractic is simple. It is simple. It's a matter of just analyze the nervous system, restore it to normal function, and the body has to go towards health. This was your birthright. Your body was not designed to go towards disease. Your body was designed perfectly to strive towards health. Again, no interference. It just needs to do that. In chiropractic, we find out where those impediments are, where those blocks are, remove those, and again, get out of the way.
Now, we're either growing or we're dying, and the body's not made to start in its 20s or 30s just deteriorating over the next 40, 50 years. It's made to be healthy until the very end there.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an interesting comparison for those of your audience that a study of the Bible, that after the flood, it was said that the days of man shall number 120. I find it really interesting. I'm a student of the Bible. That now science is showing that the body is designed to live 120 years. But because of our environment, because of the things we do to it, our lifestyle, the damages we do to it, it certainly doesn't make it to 120. But it is designed to live that long, and it's a perfect marriage.
And we don't see too many 120-year-olds right now.
Not too many. There are a few out there,
There
getting there.
Not so much in this country, where our system is, where there's
Flawed.
pollutants in the water, right? But people we're starting to move towards more of a.
The consciousness is getting there. We're raising the consciousness to get people to think about their health. I mean, right now, it's a tragedy, because I know the majority of people take better care of their car than they do of their body. And their car is replaceable. Don't take care of it, burn out a battery, and you could replace the battery. Let the oil run out, and you could replace the engine. It's replaceable. Burn out your heart, burn out your liver. It's not coming back if it's done. But even if you're at death's door, but you still have breath left in your body, there's still a chance, there's still hope. I want everybody to know that. Anybody who's out there that's lost hope, be it physically, be it psychologically, or any of those factors, there is hope. You need to give us a call. You need to get in the office. You need to get your nervous system checked, because there's hope as long as you still have breath.
We even say, I've seen chiropractors say before, someone hasn't tried everything until they've tried chiropractic.
And even if you have tried chiropractic, please, I mean, you get the classic thing. Somebody comes into your office, you give them a program of care. This is what I need you to do. It's like if you go into your medical doctor and you had a cold or whatever, and he gave you a prescription for antibiotics, and he said, 12 days. You need to take this, Miss Smith, for 12 days. Don't go a day less. Everybody takes it for 12 days. I mean, they're absolutely religious with it, and they go crazy if they miss a day. If we tell them a program, you need to come in a certain amount of days and a certain amount of weeks. This is what you need for me to make the correction, for me to make the fix. You need to do that. What we find a lot is it's not as fast as someone might think they want to get well, and then they stop. The problem is then they think that, chiropractic doesn't work. But they didn't fulfill their part of the bargain. They didn't fulfill their length of stay that was necessary to make the correction. So if you're in that, and even if you don't think chiropractic works, please, then go to another chiropractor.
And one of the reasons is because most chiropractors don't explain the information like we do here, like we do to every one of our patients.
Correct.
And also the opposite is true, where people will come in, they start their care, you say this is what it takes to get well, this is what it's going to take to fix this, and they come in a couple times, they say, wow, you know what, I'm all better. I think I'm cured. Thank you, doc.
This is classic.
And they don't get the problem fixed. They don't get the spine corrected. They don't keep the pressure off the nervous system. And then they say, it worked great for me, but then, months and months, years later, it came back.
Absolutely classic. Yep.
And so we're just about out of time. If there's something else you'd like to, a final note you'd like to share with us, a testimonial or a story perhaps of something you've noticed or experienced?
Yeah, absolutely. Very quickly, there's this book, What Time Tuesday, famous in chiropractic circles. There are two people on the back here, husband and wife. It's one man's testimonial on his experience through life, and it kind of goes in line with what I was saying about if there's no hope. He had no hope. He was in such intractable pain from trigeminal neuralgia, he wanted to kill himself. He was already ready to kill himself. In fact, What Time Tuesday, 5 p.m. was the time he was going to kill himself, a certain date. But finally, out of desperation, I don't want to actually even give much of the information, but chiropractic saved his life. He now is obviously still alive because he wrote this book, out of pain, and goes around the world teaching chiropractic to the layperson to let them know there is hope. There is always hope to get into a chiropractor's office, get their nervous system checked, and please just take the time to do that and expect a miracle.
And he's an amazing speaker. I heard him speak myself, and we've experienced, this is a very very intense condition that he had, trigeminal neuralgia.
Oh, it's likened to a hot poker stuck in your face 24/7.
They call it the suicide syndrome because a lot of people that have it
Correct.
do end up killing themselves. It's just unbearable pain. And I've personally experienced a couple of patients myself that have had trigeminal neuralgia, and through chiropractic care got well, and their lives were turned around and changed. There's such an amazing, we see so many miracle cases like this on a daily basis. And not because, me as a chiropractor or you as a chiropractor are curing or fixing someone. We just, like you said, we move the bone, get out of the way, let the body do the healing.
Correct.
I just had a woman who, with manic depression, was on, for 13 years, she was on 2,100 milligrams of lithium, which is a very
Heavy duty.
Heavy duty. That's a heavy duty drug.
Basically live as a zombie, just kind of.
Exactly. We're covering up her emotions, basically like putting a cast on your arm. This
Poor
is
girl.
putting a cast on her emotional scale, and she basically gave up hope. She, one day she wasn't even very excited to come into the office at first. Say, oh, you know what, my mother said I should come here, and so she came. After she'd been under care for not that long, just a couple weeks, her doctor, for the first time in 13 years, reduced her lithium. And then
That's beautiful.
months and months later, now she's almost completely off the lithium. Her life has changed. She's just functioning better. She's happy again.
Now go back to what we said before. Imagine had she come into a chiropractor's office years before she was even on the lithium, the likelihood is she never would have had to go on the lithium to begin with. That's the true miracle. These testimonials are fantastic, and we love them, and people love them, and it gives them a connection and maybe puts off a light bulb for them to come in. But more importantly is before she had that, before he had the trigeminal neuralgia, before that person had that cancer, before that person had, get into the office, get your nervous system checked. In my office, when we check a nervous system, and if the nervous system's clear, we say, Mary, your absolutely body's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. Chiropractic care now is not indicated. Your body is expressing 100% life. We'll see you in a couple months. Come in for a checkup. Just like that. So the key is you want to get checked. You want to make sure your nervous system's functioning right so that you could express your maximum potential and guard against disease. And if you have, then obviously to get back the other direction towards health.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Doc. Glad to have you here again.
Absolutely a pleasure. Anytime sharing with you and your wealth of knowledge of chiropractic and to share with your audience and your patients. Thank you so much.
And remember, God gave us the gift of life, and what we do with that gift is our gift back to God. We'll see you next time on Ask the Chiropractor.